All right. Good evening, everybody. Is that coming through okay, Jake? Okay, awesome. Thank you all for coming out this evening. Those of you that are here in person and watching through Facebook. It's a beautiful spring evening, and there's a lot of other things you could have chose to do, and appreciate you making the choice to be here tonight. For those of you that don't know, my name is Chris Good. I am the new host of the group. After approximately 7 years, Jake Beiler made the decision to hand off the hosting duties to someone else. And I know, like the rest of you, you will miss seeing him up front here, but would love to see you guys greet Jake before you leave this evening. He's here, and thank him for the incredible value he provided to the community over the past 7 years. And Jake, if you wanted to come up and just say a few words, it's up to you. Like I said, we all appreciate what you did.
Yep. For sure. I looked forward to this meeting tonight more than I have for probably about 7 years because I didn't have anything to plan. So, no, that's not entirely true, but it's been a really good season of hosting the group. Many of you have been with this group for a while, and for those of you that have, I feel like you deserve to know a little bit about how I got started with the group. It's easy to just assume that the person at the front of the room is a professional and they're, used to public speaking and they have it all together, right? Well, I'm going to give you just a quick snapshot of kind of my journey through that. So when we started this meeting, when Joe Liofsky started it back, 12, 13, 14 years ago at the White Horse Fire Hall, maybe a couple of years into that, I remember at the meeting, I think Kervin Horning made an announcement. He said, we're looking for some board members. If there's anyone here that's willing to serve, please let us know. And I think I remember about where I was sitting that evening in that meeting, and I kind of felt like I should offer, but I'm like, who am I to serve on a board of something like this? So I didn't say anything. And then a day or two later, I reached out and I said, I guess if there's value that I can add, I'd be willing to serve. So that's how I got started on the board. And then we had a rotation, or we had a structure for a while where the board members were each responsible to get 2 speakers per year or something like that. Joe was hosting the meeting at that time. And so I remember specifically, I think one time I had gotten Dave Wolf into the room, and I wasn't sure if I have to introduce him or not. I was terrified. And so I go to the meeting and, chatting with Joe before the meeting. And he's like, yeah, I'll let you introduce Dave. And I'm like, I'm almost shaking in my boots. So anyway, that's how I started out. You just deserve to know that because most of the time when you see someone, whether it's public speaking, whatever it is, there's usually a journey to get there. And I'm super grateful that Chris has accepted the invitation to take over the group and to lead it. And I would just encourage all of you to even show your support in whatever ways you can to Chris, and even if there's other groups that you're involved in, it's a lot of work to host something like this. I got a lot of value from it over the years, and it's been a tremendous privilege and an honor to do that, but it's also more work than most people realize. So please don't forget to support not only Chris, but even the rest of the board members here as they try to find speakers and add value to the group. But yeah, I'm pretty happy to be here tonight, just letting Chris run with it. So I'm going to turn it back over to him. And you'll continue to seeing me at the meeting, at least some of the time, I believe. But you won't see me up front here a whole lot in the near future.
Cool. Thanks, Jake. Well, one of those one of the pieces or new chapter of Jake's life is he's getting married. So be sure to congratulate him for that as well. So I'm thrilled to be able to serve in this way. I have to be honest, I do feel a little bit unqualified, but I also got a ton of value from meetings like this one, and others in different areas. So I kind of hated to see it go away, and I thought, well, maybe I can be that person that provides value to the group in this way. Shout out to our sponsors for keeping this meeting possible. Chet Lapp with Providence Real Estate Settlement Services, a local title company. Astoria Realty, real estate brokerage owned by myself and Ben Yoesh, another local realtor. A couple of our agents are here tonight. David's here, and Ethan's here somewhere as well. I don't see him right now. Jeff Mueller, he's a private lender, a long-time participant in the group. He's not here tonight. He's in the Caribbeans on a cruise, but he'll be here next month. At least that's what he had told me today. Joe Liofsky, he used to own a property management company, Compass Property Management Group. He sold it. Now what do you do? Play golf or? Yeah, go on cruises. There you go. All right. Joe has been a wealth of information to a lot of people, including myself, in the real estate world. And then Red Box Dumpsters. Sam Glick is the owner of that. And that wraps up our sponsor list. And our speaker tonight is Austin Mountain. He is the owner of Peaceful Homes Property Management. I've gotten to know Austin, I'd say, fairly well over the past 2-3 years, and I continue to be more impressed with his character, his work ethic, and what he has built through Peaceful Homes and getting his little family going. And wanted to say thank you for Joe Liofsky for getting Austin out here, putting this together. So if you're still okay with it, I'll let you do a proper introduction, and then after that, the floor is yours, Austin.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Hey, it's good to see everybody this evening. There's a lot of other places you can be when it's 75 degrees and nice out, so I commend you for being here. People whose business is growing, they want to continue to learn. So being here where you can learn from somebody, maybe make less mistakes than some of the things that we did early on. So I'm going to introduce you to Austin. I can honestly say he's probably the best property manager in Lancaster County. And I got to know him a few years ago. We would get together for breakfast in the morning, even when we were competitors, because we realized that there's a great big world out there. There's opportunity for everybody. But if we could share information, share knowledge, share what we're seeing and what's going on in the property management world, it would be better for our clients. When Lancaster started giving landlords a hard time about lead paint, also went out and did something about it, solved the problem, and got lead paint certified. So he's constantly learning, constantly out there making things happen. So with that, I'm not going to take up any more of his time, but I'm going to let you guys grab your pens and pencils, get ready to take some notes, and let you meet Austin Mountain.
Thanks, Joe. Joe's the smart one. He sold and got out of property management. And thank you, Chris, Jake, Eli, everybody that gave me the opportunity to come up here. So I'm going to kind of go over a little bit about property management and real estate investing from operating, and we'll kind of go through it. And please feel free and comfortable to ask questions as we go. If I had to listen to myself talk for an hour, I might start nodding off as well, so feel free to keep it interactive. I always get people with that one. I don't seem like the guy that would do origami. So just a quick little bit about myself. So I drastically outdid myself when I married my wife. She's too beautiful and smart for me, but somehow I tricked her. We have a beautiful family. We have a young son and a daughter on the way this July. I got my real estate license over 15 years ago when I was in college. I've always had a desire to be involved in real estate, so I started working in it early on. But I never had a desire to actually do residential sales. I was always interested on the investment side, which led me eventually to get into property management. My goal was to get paid to learn how to operate the assets. So I went and I learned how to be a property manager. Once I hit my ceiling there, I started off on my own. I had a small property management company that eventually turned into Peaceful Homes Property Management. We've been serving Lancaster County since August of 2020. As of now, we only do Lancaster County. If Joe has his way, that'll change. I'm also a real estate investor. I own some rental properties. I've done a couple flips. I vastly prefer the rental properties. And I got into lead abatement, as we'll go over and we'll touch on some of the lead paint requirements that come through Lancaster City and some of the other municipalities. There's a real opportunity there. And quite frankly, I had somebody higher up in the city say, you need to do this. So I listened and learned from it, and now we can better serve our clients by understanding the process as well. So Peaceful Homes Property Management, just a little bit about what we're doing, who we are, and why they were willing to give me a microphone. We manage a little bit over 900 units throughout the county. So we've done this at a little bit of scale. Like I mentioned, we started in August of 2020, and we've been very fortunate that we've only grown by referral, and it's a big thanks to Eli, to Joe, to Jake, Chris, a lot of the guys in this room. We're very fortunate. This is only because of the people here. We put a big focus on our quality, our service to our owners, our investors. And so we were actually turning away business for most of 2024 as we tried to fix some things and make sure that that did not slip. But we are constantly improving, and we're ready to start growing. All right, so enough of boring stuff about me. Party like it's 2020. I think a lot of people still are in this mindset that you can just name any rent price you want. We've been very spoiled for a number of years, and we're starting to come back down to reality, and that's kind of a big piece I want to touch on tonight, so I can kind of show you what we're dealing with and why rent prices are a little bit different. You may be struggling to fill vacancies. You may not be getting the same price that you're used to. So there's a lot new market dynamics. You are now competing with a lot of new build rentals. We're no longer are you able to just push your market rents by renovating your properties to the nines. You're now facing competition that you just simply cannot compete with if you try to do it at the same level. And then we're going to go a little bit over how to set your expectations, what to look for, and how to better understand what you should be shooting for. So I wasn't able to get the exact Zillow data from 2020 and some of the past years, but I have some stuff from back when we started tracking this. I don't think you can see it, unless you do. If you got really great eyes, you can. And this was from March 16th to this year. There was 1,170 rental properties available in Lancaster County. I don't have the exact number of what it was back in 2020, 21, 22, but any of you guys remember, there was a whole lot less purple on that screen. You could name your price. There was not a lot of competition. We started tracking this during weekly updates back in October of 10th. This was an 8.4% increase in rentals from that time alone. This is it today. In 2 weeks, we went up to 1,488 units are currently available in the county. So that's close to a 38% increase from October. So if you're wondering why you're struggling to find the same rent prices filling as quickly, there's just a ton more supply out there than there is demand. And I mean, we had a 27% increase in rentals in the past 2 weeks, and there's still more coming. Greenfield's still doing their new builds. There's more and more rentals that are getting constructed right now. It's going to drastically affect your ability. Now, we'll touch a little bit on it, but all that really means is you're going to have to adjust your pricing. You're going to have to adjust your expectations. I talked to an investor that's been in this for over 40 years, and I asked him, what do you do in a down market? What do you do when these things start happening? He just looked at me and shrugged his shoulders and said, you pushed rents for 5-10% the last few years. You might just have to drop them 5-10% for a little bit. It's really not rocket science. It's simple supply and demand. Some of us, if we're newer, probably listen to a few gurus that said all you could do is over leverage and retire in 3 years. Doesn't really work that way because you don't get to pick the rent. The market will set that rate for you. So just a little bit of a dive into what you're competing with if you are trying to renovate and push your rents. This is 202 North Queen downtown Lancaster. I don't know if you can see it on the left-hand side. This is a recent one. This was 2 weeks ago when I was putting this together. They're still giving away a free month of rent. They're still trying to give away free months of rent to get people in the door. This is the level of finishes you're competing with as far as bathrooms. Everything's brand new. I have a little bit more on this here. This was back in the fall when we had even less. We had 38% less rentals on the market, and they were giving away 2 months of free rent. So that's a little bit more about, like, that's what you're competing against. Supply, oversupply, and the new builds are just giving away rent. Now, I like to always say it's not direct competition in the sense that it's not really apples to apples. You guys, a lot of times we're having older buildings that have been renovated. We're not really competing with luxury new build. You kind of are. So the kind of quality tenants that you're looking for, they now have a ton more options. And when something new and shiny shows up and they're giving them free rent, and we'll go over some of the amenities they do, they start wondering, hey, maybe I can push my budget a little bit. I no longer want to live someplace like one of these older rentals. I'm going to get some of these amenities that come with it. I'll read these off because I think these are probably difficult for people to see. I'm going to come over here. So this was one of the things on 202 North Queen when they were really pushing the 2 months free rent. They had a 30-day guarantee. You can try out our apartment for 30 days, and if we haven't fully delivered on your satisfaction, you are free to give us 30 days notice in that period, and you won't need to pay a lease break fee. I don't know about you, but I don't feel too confident in my product if I can let you out in 30 days. Can I break my lease for a job transfer? Yep, you can break your lease for a job transfer more than 50 miles, military service, hospice care, and you won't need to pay us a lease break fee. Government does a pretty bad job verifying documents. I doubt they did their due diligence on whether it was 50 miles away or not. So you could just say, I got a new job in Maryland and I'm moving out. How do I break my lease to buy a house? You break your lease to buy a house at any point in your residency, just to use one of our preferred real estate agents, and you won't need to pay us a lease break fee. We'll ask Chris about the legalities on that one. It's a little gray. Do you offer a security deposit alternative? Yes, you have the option to pay a one-time fee as low as $2.99 in place of a security deposit if approved. And I want you guys to understand the full picture of why your rents have started stagnating or dropping. This means that you could move in for 2 months for free, tell them after that day, on day 30, this isn't for me, I'm going to move out, and you'd have paid $2.99. You could have had 2 months of free rent in a luxury apartment for $299. And it's a deposit, so if you don't trash it, you get it back. And they're not the only ones doing it. This is what all the new builds are doing. They're playing a very different game than what most the investors in this room are playing. They're not looking at their cash flow. They need to get a rent roll to give to the bank to get out of they need to refinance out of their loans to get into better, favorable debt. So this is what else is out there. And I also want you to see the kind of amenities you're dealing with. This is what they're giving away for a couple months of free rent. You can leave whenever you want. $2.99. Rooftop terrace, coffee bar, gym, lounge, mail room. One of the downsides of the city. Sometimes people just, boxes will disappear off your porch. Here they don't have that issue. And then a lobby. So those are the kind of amenities. So it's not apples to apples. You can renovate your property as well as you want, and you're competing with that. We've seen a drastic change in 2020, 21, parts of 22. We were doing brand new kitchens, new baths, HVAC. We were pushing everything we could because you could turn it around and re-rent it for the top of the market. Now it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. A lot of times we're doing paint, flooring, calling it a day, moving on, and finding that quality working tenant that we're trying to get there and ride this wave. This is another one. This one just came up downtown. This is a Boyd Wilson one on Gallery 118. Free month rent. It's really hard to see, but it's 1 month free with a 13-month lease. And then they have all these other things, but I didn't want to talk to their chat bot. This was my favorite one. The Alice there was giving away 3 months of free rent. So, yeah, you could have a quarter of your year free. Any questions on the new build construction, what you're dealing with there?
Doesn't 202 also have a swimming pool on the roof, I think?
I don't believe so. They might. There's the one on Manheim Pike that has a swimming pool, and then the Celadon off of 30 and New Holland Pike there has a swimming pool. But yeah, you're just running into a lot of different amenities, and you're just seeing people that are like, yeah, I could live here for a year. My take has been, what I've been working with our investors is ride the wave for the next 12 to 18 months. I really doubt a lot of these people are going to renew and stay there. They've cut corners. I've heard numerous complaints of people that have lived in these places. Keep doing what you're doing. It will swing back the other way. What is going to happen is the builders are going to slow down. These will get filled. They'll start coming back over, and then it's just going to be a pendulum. It'll come back to the point where we now have more demand than supply, and you'll be in a good place. It's kind of cyclical. If there's nothing else on that, kind of touch a little bit of base on how we find tenants. If you're self-managing or if you're just getting into it, I'm basically going to tell you exactly how we do it. It's if you place a great tenant, you find a good tenant, you're going to mitigate most of your problems. And realistically, all my job is risk mitigation. We're just here to avoid the downside of the downside of it. Marketing. So as we just been kind of going over, the market's going to set the price. So your pricing is going to be very important. We're no longer in the time where you can set a price high and then start reducing it as you go. That used to be always the thing. Start high, if it doesn't work, drop the price and adjust down. There's a lot of data that's showing that anytime you have to do a price reduction, your days on market significantly goes up. The most amount of interest you're going to get on your property is that first time you post it live. It's very important to make sure it's cleaned. There's pictures, they're good quality pictures. Really consider going professional on that, or having somebody that is good with a camera do it. We've done some AI staging. I don't know if it would say it moves the needle a ton, but it does look nice. And it's fun to have. I always like to say, like, the market, the tenants, nobody cares what your interest rate is. Nobody cares what your mortgage is. Nobody cares that insurance went up. The market is what the market is. I think everybody in here knows all the great benefits of real estate investing. The cash flow, the appreciation, depreciation, the ability to use leverage. There's a lot of great benefits of real estate. When there's a lot of upside, there also comes risk. And that's part of, like, there's a lot of risk to real estate. That's why there's property managers. That's the reason I have a job. But we've been very spoiled in the last few years where it's been up, up, and up, low interest rates, inflation. It makes everybody seem like we're all geniuses. But now you start having a little bit of volatility, and now it's just about finding ways to mitigate that risk. I always say there's a huge difference between qualified interest and interest. I can take whatever property you have, I can put it up on the market, and I can put it up there for a couple $1,000, $2,000, $2,500. I'll get people that want to rent it. They'll find a way to get in the door, but they're not going to keep paying after that. You're going to get a trashed house. It's going to get destroyed. You can tell you want qualified interest. You want people that are going to take care of the property and pay their rent. Yep. Cool. All right. Pre-screening. So one of the things we do to try to mitigate or try to lower the amount of people we have to show properties to, and a lot of, like, trying to weed out the stuff, is we do pre-screening. Try to get as much information as possible. We're going to ask about your credit score, your income, the number of occupants, animals, time frame, and background. Specifically ask animals. We'll get into the ESA, the emotional support animal versus pet, in a little bit, but if you ask animal, you find out there. Sometimes if it says they got 2 emotional support pit bulls, maybe I forget to respond to the email. So, can't discriminate, but you might get too busy to respond. Any questions at all?
Regarding the pet sender, if they deny it or get one later and refuse to tell you and you suspect it, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, there's a few different ways. So you can, if you don't know for sure, you can do an inspection to find out whether or not it's there. And then it's realistically, do you want to have them pay for it or do you want to have them leave the unit? More times than not, it makes a whole lot more sense just to have them pay for it. If they're trying to say it's an emotional support animal, like they can't just move it in and then call it an emotional support animal. There's a process to it. So what we always like to do is to start charging for it. We'll talk about pets a little bit more, but I think everybody should allow for pets and then just charge a pet fee. Most of your tenant pool has pets. They stay longer. You want to weed people out on other things, but take the pet, pay for it. Kids cause a lot more damage. They don't let me charge extra for kids, but pets are fine. Anybody else? This guy's going to just pass out if we don't have more questions. No? All right. Showings. So this is another thing we got really spoiled on in 2020 and 2021. We were able to do virtual showings. We just started taking video, popping it up there. It didn't have to go out there. People apply, rent a place, sight unseen. It was kind of great. Started pendulums coming back a little bit. People want to do showings again. People were taken advantage of. People started showing videos that were not correct and renting to people. So that's what we run into now. I'm a huge fan of doing group showings or stacking them. I want people to know that there's interest in this, and I also don't want to waste all the time going back and forth. I'm a bit stubborn on this. I know a lot of people have started going to where you have to apply to be able to do a showing. We're still not forcing applications. We charge for applications. They're non-refundable. I think we'll go through some of this, but the less friction there is between the landlord and the tenant, the better, and the less reason we give governments excuses to push policies, the better. So if we start charging fees to see properties, you're going to see government regulation start stepping in. And I have been beating my head against the wall against the government for a while now. I go to council meetings, I deal with boroughs and councils, and the ironic thing, as I told Joe, is all the guys I talk to that do property management in the highly regulated areas, California and New York, they love government regulation because there's no mom and pop landlords. There's no investors that self-manage there. So they have basically cornered the market where they can increase their fees and do whatever they want because people have to use them. So my point in all that is I'd make more money if there's more government regulation, but I'm here still fighting against it because it's wrong. It'll mess up things for investors, and it'll mess up things for the community that they think they're helping. I don't think most of the council is intentionally harming people. They're just not very well educated. There are a lot of self-show options. A whole lot of different ones. I don't use them. I know people are a big fan of them. I don't like the risk. I'd rather pay somebody to go show it than run that risk. Screening. So we do the paid application fee. That helps eliminate some waste applications. Again, I want to make sure that we actually are looking at stuff that matters. So I don't want to just keep running applications if we don't have to. One quick thing about the showings. I said we don't charge for the application. We don't force an application to do showings. We will always require them to send us their ID. And I'll show you how we do background checks here in a second. You can run a quick background check on them to see if it's even worthwhile for you to show. So we get the ID, run a quick background check, doesn't cost us anything, doesn't cost them anything, but if they got a bunch of LTs or stuff on there that you don't want, we're just not gonna show it. And then yeah, cost to run credit. So our credit score requirements, everybody's a little bit different. We only serve Lancaster County, so we're very spoiled in our tenant pool. We have a bit of a better tenant pool than some other markets like Harrisburg and York. We have a 630 or better credit score requirement. I think credit is the most important thing we look at. It shows your ability to pay. And I think income is kind of the least important. So I've seen people make a lot of money, never pay a bill. People that care about their credit, they're going to pay their rent, and they're going to pay for the damages. If you don't care about your credit, there's nothing you can do to somebody after they leave. They can trash your place, run up all this money, and if they don't care, there's nothing you're going to do. But somebody has a 750 credit score, that they leave with damages, they're going to pay that off or it's going to damage their credit. Only real means of accountability. No bet it's better than bad credit. So we will rent to people with lower credit. And a lot of times it's students, people that may be newer to the country, don't have established credit. We'll look for co-signers, first, last, and security. We'll find a few different options to try to make it work. But bad credit's a different thing. I don't take co-signers for bad credit. You've already shown that you're not willing to do it, and I don't really trust that your co-signer's going to either. Income, we look for 3 times the monthly rent. We're looking at gross monthly rent, so we look to see 3 times that. We use pay stubs or bank statements. We're very different than a bank. I do not want to see your tax returns. I want to see what you're currently making. You need to be pretty careful with these. We're seeing more and more people start faking their pay stubs. They'll fake a job. They'll have their buddy listed as the boss. We don't typically need to research or call the business as long as the pay stubs are verifiable. If there's something sketchy, then we will call and verify that it's an actually a legit business. But you can search it. I've had people put down stuff that it's not real, and it's not the hardest to figure out. I think everybody should probably download this before they leave tonight. This is a free app on your phone. It's the PAE docket. It will find everything. It will find everything that the web browser will miss. So do not use your web browser. Use this. It actually finds stuff that the browser will miss. I had a judge show this to me. Search with and without date of birth. I like to search with date of birth first to kind of weed down. If you have a common name like John Smith, you're going to want to kind of weed that down. You need to search without date of birth because your landlord-tenant filings are not going to show up if you have date of birth on there. So date of birth weeds it down more, but then also search for landlord-tenant complaints. Quick example how to do that. Search John Smith with date of birth. There's a ton of John Smiths that show up, and a lot of their problems are in Dauphin County. Another John Smith shows up, ton of issues in Allegheny County, Philadelphia County. There's no John Smiths with any issues in Lancaster County. So then you search it without date of birth. And then you can find out. And if there's an LTs on John Smiths and it's not Lancaster County, you can probably feel pretty confident that's not the John Smith. So we deny anybody with a landlord-tenant, but you don't want to deny somebody that could be good because you're pulling the wrong name. So this is pretty important to verify and figure out, do you have the right name here? And yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep, even if it's filed. Yeah. I mean, you can make an exception. So we want as many legal outs as we can get. So we say no LTs, credit score requirement, income requirement, background check, all of that is on there. If they just got filed on and we talk to them, we talk to their landlord and they explain the whole situation and it's something we see, hey, you know what, this is worthwhile to take the risk on, we could make that exception. But we like the ability to have that where this is our out. We've had one where it ended up falling off. I still haven't heard from HUD. They handed it off to 2 or 3 different inspectors on me, and they were trying to say we discriminated against them based on their race, and we had an LT filing. There was an LT filing on the background. It was very clear cut why we denied their application. So it's really important to make sure we have that stuff. And I think that's a really important thing for a lot of people here. If you're self-managing, and there's nothing wrong with that, but understand the protected classes. Understand what you're allowed to deny for, and understand what you can and cannot do. Cannot deny on race, family origin. There's a whole list of it, and I won't belabor that because I'm sure it's gone over, but I'm happy to talk about it. But as we've talked about, being a jerk's not a protected class. I've had people that, like, if you're a jerk, I don't have to rent to you. I've told people that too. I was like, it's probably a little bit more colorful language than jerk, but I've matured since then. Yeah, we do like any LT is an automatic no for us. Not a fan of violent or drug crimes, especially in multi-units. So we do some rooming houses. We're not going to take drugs because it becomes a big problem all the way throughout. Violent crimes, we won't. We stay away from Megan's Law and multi-units, but you have a little bit of flexibility here. This is another thing where this is why it's really important for investors to get involved in their municipalities and their councils. More and more places are starting to push for not being able to use background as a reason to deny an application. More and more of these places are saying you can't deny somebody if they were evicted between 2020 to 2022, like because of COVID. And it's like, if you were ever able not to get evicted, it was during that time. There was so much free money out there that anybody that got evicted during that time should be double banned. But municipalities and different counties and cities are really starting to push this regulation, and you need to be aware of what it is. And because that was one of the things they kept trying to get on me with the HUD thing, is they had a criminal one and they're like, did you deny it because there was criminals? No, LT, very clearly why we did it. Because then you get into LT, and then there's pushes from certain cities that, well, if you deny for this crime, that demographic is more highly likely to have that crime, so you can't deny that crime. So be very clear on what your expectations are. As long as you clearly state what you will accept and won't accept, you're pretty safe. And if it's a multi-unit, 4 units or less, and you live in one of those, you can deny for anything you want. So.
Can you real quick touch on convicted sex offenders, Megan's Law? Or do they have any protection?
I don't believe so. I don't think they're protected at all. So you can use your judgment there. That's why we say background check, so it gives us a little bit of flexibility, but no, I don't believe they're protected at all. Yeah, and I don't think any municipality's fighting for them. So
They all live somewhere, but
yeah, I don't know if we've rented to one, but I know it would not be in a multi-unit. So if it's a single-family home and everything else checks out, maybe. It depends on what it is too. You can look into it. Some of them are there's varying degrees, and some of it's just a morality thing of, yeah, I'm just not going to do it. Yep. Landlord references. This one's another really big one. I think credit, background, landlord references, are my top 3, and then income's last. Call the current and the previous landlords. I've talked to current landlords that are saying, yeah, they're great because they want them out the door. So you got to talk to the previous one. That's where you're going to get the honest one. A lot of them will actually, a lot of people now will say, you need to send it to me in writing. They want to do it in writing. Call first. You're going to get somebody who's a lot more honest if you give them a call. If they require it to go in writing, go ahead and set it in writing. But I always like to make a phone call. I've had people give me the whole spiel where this person looked good on paper. I had one, I always remember her, everything looks good. She kind of gives me this, yeah, they're not bad kind of spiel. I said, okay, here's what they told me about you. And then she's like, oh, calls me back 2 minutes later and says, let me tell you really how these people were. And I mean, they were, and just rips into them. And we denied them. And then, ironically enough, we took over the property that they were then renting. So we ended up dealing with them anyway. And they did suck. So it was, we made the right choice, but we got stuck with them anyway, which we run into quite a bit. And we end up taking it over because it became somebody else's headache that they took on because they shouldn't have. And a lot of your headaches in real estate stop here. You get the right person, it can be pretty set it and forget about it. I shouldn't tell anybody that because that's my job, but I try to mitigate all my problems right here when we put good tenants in. Check the tax records. If they're not renting from a big institutional landlord or anything like that, search to see if that property actually belongs to the person that they say it does. We've had people that say, yeah, I live at 123 Main Street, I rent from Chad, and I look it up, and 123 Main Street's owned by Bill. And I'm like, so, and we make the phone call, and then I mess with the guy a little bit, and then find out the honest, and we just deny it. But do a little bit of digging. People are better at lying than they are at working. And if they, yeah, some require, and then these are just some of the questions I like to ask. Did they pay on time? Any damages? Proper notice to vacate? Tenant leave with a balance? Would you rent to them again? Most of the established companies are going to give you just generic nonsense here. You're not going to get a whole lot out of it, but you do need to do your due diligence. Sometimes you'll get some good nuggets in here. I love my favorite response I get every time I say, would you rent to them again if qualified? That's why I'm asking you, are they qualified to rent again? So I wanted to put in some stuff that I think everybody should have in their lease agreements. I'm not sure if you self-managing or how a lot of people do stuff, but make sure you have waive notice to quit. Make sure in your lease you have waive notice to quit. This will allow you to file immediately when the rent is not paid. If you don't have this waived, you're going to have to give them a 10-day notice to quit. Wait for them to, you're going to have to post it, make sure that it's past that time frame, then you get the file. I would also have them initial next to this as well. Have them initial next to this in the lease so there's no disagreement when you go to the judge's office that, hey, they saw it, they signed off on it, they understand it, because the law is the same. Every judge has a different interpretation of it. Every judge is going to act a little bit differently. Some are a little bit more tenant friendly. Some of them really can't stand tenants, and those are the entertaining ones. But make sure you cover all your bases. And this is a big reason we really like staying in one area, and we're only in Lancaster County. We know all the judges. We know which one's like this, which one's like that. We have one where we fixed some plumbing for him, and the invoice never got to him. So we have some happy judges in our area. Yeah. So waive notice to quit. I want to say a caveat to that. Waiving notice to quit allows you to file without notice for non-payment of rent. If you're trying to file on them for a lease violation, for example, if they moved in a pet that you didn't want and you want to file on them, you're going to have to give them notice to correct that. So if you're going to say, I want to get rid of these people because they have a pet here, I don't want this pet in here, it's damaging my property, you're going to have to give them notice to quit to correct that. And if they don't move out the pet, then you're allowed to file. But more and more of these judges, they're not supposed to, but you will find judges that start asking questions to try to get the case denied from the beginning and thrown out to start over. So you want to cover all your bases and make sure that that's taken care of. We are starting to see a little bit more of a push for pro bono lawyers. So you're starting to run into more and more tenants that are going to show up with attorneys. So you really want to make sure all your bases are checked. I'm happy to answer questions if you have them, even if it's not somewhere we can help with, but I'm always willing to help. Here's what we do. Most of the time, if you see an attorney on the other side, they probably found some sort of loophole that they're going to try to use. Whenever I see this one attorney, I know he found something that he's going to try to play with. He doesn't like me very much, but that's because we beat him. This one I think is, everybody has a different opinion on. 30 days notice I think is a lot better than 60 days notice. So the common thought is, if they have to give me 60-day notice, I have more time to market it, I have more time to fill it, I know what's coming. You have to play by the rules more so than they do. If your lease says 60 days notice, you're also held to that. So you're going to have to give them 60-day notice for any change you want to make. And the lease, increase the rent, whatever it may be. Tenants theoretically are too. If the tenant gives you a 30 days notice and leaves and skips town, you're going to be hard pressed to find a judge that says, yeah, they actually are going to pay you, they owe you that because they didn't give you 60 days notice. Once you have possession of the property, most judges don't care about your feelings. So they're not going to really hold it to that. And that's why a lot of times you're not as protected by the lease as a tenant is. Tenants actually get more protection in these leases depending on how they're written than the actual investor does. So you've got to be very careful how they're written and make sure, and like I said, this is all risk mitigation. So the lease is not as protective as the screening is. Your screening process is significantly more important than your lease. Rent increases, I don't think they're always necessary. We have a little bit of a different perspective on a lot of things. This one I'm pretty adamant about. We will not just give blanket rent increases year to year. We don't just do the standard 3 to 5%. We like to look at your portfolio and look at what other stuff is renting for, especially now and even back when things were crazy. We had to play the game when it was 2020 and there was issues with doing evictions. We wanted to see, is it worth rocking the boat? Do we want to risk having somebody say, I'm just not paying? Then now we got to where there's way more supply than there is demand. If we rented your place in 2020, it may be worth a lot more. We may not be able to rent for what it's currently renting for. So we don't want to say, hey, we're going to increase your rent by 5%, when if we had to go put it on the market, we're going to decrease it by 15%. So we take the time to go through that. I'm a big believer in making sure, like, we don't want to cause unnecessary vacancy for owners. We want to make sure it, and we have that conversation. If you want to do it, that's your call. We'll still do it for you. But if it goes vacant, we're going to place a new tenant in charge of a new fee. So we really try to protect our owners that way. And we try to educate them there too, and say, hey, we're getting $17.50 right now. If we rent it again, we're probably getting $16.50. You also want to be very careful. Time of year has become way more important now than ever. Than in recent memory. If you got into this in the last 10, 15 years, you probably could get away with stuff in the winter. Stuff is sitting longer in the winter. It's not as bad as it's been in the past. That investor I mentioned about decrease in rent, he told me that they got to one point where they just winterized their stuff over winter because it was just not going to rent. So we're not there, but it does take much longer to rent in the winter, and the good tenants aren't moving. And the ones that are getting dangled that shiny new property for 2 months of free rent. I think a lot of people get enamored with multifamily homes. Single-family homes are still great. Tenants are responsible for all their utilities, pest control. This is something I would make sure you have in there. Single-family homes, they're responsible for everything because they're the ones using it. Plumbing addendum, this one I stole from Joe. The only things you can put down the toilet, human waste and toilet paper. We used to have things you can't, but they will find something you never thought of. There's toys. My favorite, I think, is the fish pebbles. The fish pebbles in the garbage disposal are one of my favorite ones. So just put down what you're allowed to put down the toilet, and then anything else is billable to a tenant. Any questions on lease stuff, what we should put in there? Now, the notice to quit is, the waiving notice to quit is going to be referred to if they're not paying their rent to file to go get the payment of rent. You're still going to have to give them 30 days notice to end a lease or do a rent increase. Yep. Pets, as we mentioned before, I'm a big fan of allowing for pets. I've seen all sorts of different numbers on the statistics of the percentage of tenants that have pets, anywhere from like 65 to 75. I think I've seen some places argue closer to 80%. That was another thing that happened in COVID. Everybody took that money that they didn't have, which they did from the government, and then they went and bought a dog or a cat. And most of your tenants have pets. As I said, they're going to stay longer because there's still a lot of people that don't want to allow for pets. I'm not a fan of doing the size restriction either. I like the big lazy dog. Give me the 100-pound dog over the little tiny dog that barks at everything and tries to bite everybody's ankles. ESA is a big thing. Go to petscreening.com. If they tell you that they have an emotional support animal, do not ask for documentation, do not try to question it, do not put yourself open to any liability. Just say, great, go to petscreening.com, put in your pet, it'll give us the report, and we'll go from there. Petscreening.com will find out whether or not it is a registered emotional support animal or if it's an actual pet. If it's a pet, they pay, and then you charge them for it. And you get to make the decision. Do you want to allow it and charge them for it, or do you want to not? If it's an emotional support animal, does not mean you have to accept them. It means you cannot deny them because of the emotional support animal. You can deny them for anything else, but it cannot be because of the emotional support animal. You cannot charge fees for emotional support animals. This one is getting a little bit more gray. There was a case in New Orleans where they were actually able to charge for emotional support animal. They got sued, and the management company actually won. So their argument is it's reasonable care to allow for the animal. It's not reasonable care to not be able to charge for it. They made the argument that the tenant, they have their income, they have their credit, they can clearly see that they're able to afford it, so they charged for it. We tried that with one. They pushed back pretty hard. We're going to probably start trying it a little bit more and more. I was told by my broker and a couple attorneys that could win, but we probably don't want to be the first case in Pennsylvania to try it. So we'll try it a little bit. It's getting ridiculous. You got people with 3 emotional support animals. The cat supports the kid, the dog supports the cat, and then the fish supports that. So you start losing your patience on it. So I'm like, you can have one of them. I'm going to charge you for the other 2. When you charge pet fees, we do a non-refundable pet fee. Please make sure you call it a non-refundable pet fee. Fee is the key word. If you call it a non-refundable pet deposit, doesn't matter that you said non-refundable. It says deposit. It's like anytime somebody says something that says but, whatever they said before, it didn't really matter. But if you say deposit, it's refundable. So call it a non-refundable pet fee. What we do, and we have not had pushback from tenants, we do $300 for one pet, and then $500 if there's 2. And if there's a situation where you allow for 3, we will do $650. We did have one fun one where we charged them $3,450 for their 7 cats, and Daddy was happy to pay for it because his daughter was out of his hair. So there's some weird situations there. So that's what's fun about it. Is it's never like people are fun. Like they throw a wrench into things. And then we just increase the monthly rent. The theory is you want to offset your risk. Again, like we come back to, it's risk mitigation. If you have somebody that's going to rent your house, they have a dog, you charge $300 extra, an extra $50 a month. That's an extra $900 in that first year. If they stay for 5 years because they have that pet, that's an extra $600 a year for 5 years. That's $3,000 plus that initial. Like, you probably could replace the flooring if you have an issue. Plus, after 5 years, it's going to probably fall under wear and tear anyway. So, have them stay longer, and let real estate do what it's supposed to do. Perform over time, and let the tenants pay down your debt, increase the appreciation, and just let it work. Lead-free clearances. So if I haven't put you to sleep yet, I might hear. But this also gets a lot more interesting too.
Sorry to interrupt your most fun topic, but on the pets, I had a question on how the new build apartment buildings are competing there. Are they more restrictive with pets? And the reason I ask is because I'm trying to figure out, well, it's one thing to put up with a tenant other side this wall and on top of my ceiling and below me, but how about if they all have pets? Like, is that?
They have more, I think, restrictions on sizes. But if you go through and click, I believe after a while they start allowing for it as long as the fees will go up. So they have restrictions, but then if it's a make or break, they're going to find a way to get it in because they need that rent roll.
You mentioned about some pets that can destroy the property, but what about the pets that disturb the neighbors? Like loud dogs, and there is another case I know. There's a tenant who had a snake in the house, and the neighbor didn't like it. So something like that. Is it clear on the website or something like that?
So the lease will have, like, there's noise violations, and if a dog continues to bark at 9 o'clock, then that would be something that would fall under like a noise violation. Then you'd have to have a conversation with them, can give them a warning. It can escalate to fines and fees and stuff like that. There's different theories and things you can do with animals that are caged. If there's barking and there's a complaint from a neighbor because of noise, that's something we want to address. If a tenant's upset because somebody has a snake in a cage, I'm not too concerned. I might give them a hug, but that's about it.
To my understanding, when it comes to pets, certain dogs are not allowed on property due to insurance. Like pit bull, Rottweiler, any type of dangerous animal. That's true, right?
Yeah. You can kind of make it that you can say no dangerous breeds. The main one we stay away from is pit bulls. Outside of that, we're pretty flexible. And if you tell me it's a mixed breed and you have an 800 credit score, I might forget to look close. So it depends on where it's at. There's exceptions to every rule, but for the most part, yeah, you stay away from the dangerous speeds. Lead-free clearances. So if you've been in it for a while, what the city of Lancaster used to do is that if you had a child under 6, you were going to have to get a lead-safe certification. I can't ask if you have a child under 6, so I never did. So we kind of got away from it for a long time, and that's what a lot of people did. So then they ended up passing a law in 2023 that every single rental property in the city is required to have a lead-safe certification. They also increased their fee to, instead of it being 50, what is it? It used to be, yeah, and now it's $250 every 2 years. And it's supposed to include them to do this inspection. They will look for any excuse not to do it. So if you're going to have a city inspection, go there first and make sure you don't have any chipped or peeling paint. They will not test if they see any chipped or peeling paint. Make sure you have no chipped or peeling paint, and then just wipe down every windowsill and every floor with a fresh Clorox wipe. You'll pass. That's how you do it if it's for the city. If you don't pass and have to go through and have a third party do it, it's only good for 2 years as opposed to 4. I'm currently fighting them on that. I get a meeting every quarter, so it's going to take a little bit. But it's pretty easy to pass. It doesn't mean anything. So if you have a sick kid in the property that tested high for lead, they're going to have you come through and do a risk assessment, and they're going to go through with a XRF machine, which looks like a little ray gun, and anything that's original to the property is going to come up hot for lead. It goes layers and layers deep. All the properties that we had that got tested hot for lead, we had lead safe certs on already. But when you get the sick kid, it changes the rules. So this is, again, this is nothing more than politics saying that we're doing something. Columbia Borough is every 5 years you have to do it. Any questions on lead? This one comes up quite a bit, and their letters always look a lot scarier than what they are.
But that tester that you were talking about, if there's a sick child in the unit, what happens then?
If there's a sick child in the unit, then they're going to make you do a risk assessment. So rather than just doing the desk swipe test, they have the certified contractors come through and test doing a risk assessment. So they'll go to every piece of trim, every wall, every window, floor, and hit it with the XRF machine, and it gets a reading, and anything over a certain level becomes hot, and then it has to be abated. And abatement can look like replacement or encapsulation. So that's why a lot of times we're replacing windows, doors, trim, or sometimes we're just encapsulating. A lot of times we will be replacing things that are friction or impact. So doors, windows, anything that can flake off, we're going to probably be replacing. anything that, like baseboard, a lot of times you can get away with just painting and stabilizing. I don't know if I have it later, but it's probably a great point to talk about. It is a excellent program for investors in the city if you go through the lead program. You can get new windows, doors, trim for 10% of the cost. So you can do it proactively. You can do it as a flip. You can do it just to try to, well, it has to test hot for lead. It kind of sucks if it doesn't test hot. But if it tests hot for lead, you can do windows, doors, trim for 10% of the cost. So we're replacing a bunch of windows that cost $31,000. The owner's going to pay $3,100, and he's going to get brand new windows, arched windows. It's a great program for investors. And the city just got $7.75 million, and they have to spend it. So they like to spend their money so they can ask for more. So help them spend it. So yeah, here we go. The lead programs. City of Lancaster will do occupied and vacant units. So you can buy a property that's vacant, and then you could try to run it through there if you know you're going to need to do a lot of work. It's not a quick process because it is government run, so they work on their own time frame. If the guy that does the paperwork's out for 2 weeks, nobody's doing anything for 2 weeks. So it can take 3 to 4 months, but depending on what your carrying costs are or how much work you're trying to get done, it can make a lot of sense to do. That's the City of Lancaster's program. There's another program that's outside of there that's called the Green and Healthy Homes program. They do the rest of the county. They will not do vacant units, and theirs is a little bit different. Anything over 25 grand, you're going to pay the difference. So for example, if you did the City of Lancaster and you did a $50,000 job, you'll pay 5 grand. If you did a Green and Healthy Homes job and it was a $50,000 job, you're going to pay 25 grand. You're going to pay whatever it is above 25 grand. They're also a pain to deal with. So the guy that runs Green and Healthy Homes is the guy that used to run the City of Lancaster's program when nobody ever wanted to use it. They got rid of him, and now this program actually became really good to use. So, but it's there. Reading is unique. Anybody who invests in Reading, you can get it for 0%. They will let you do the full renovation for nothing. Now, he may charge, he said, I may charge him if they have 100 units, but otherwise you can probably get away with running it through. Oh, no. So if you proactively go through this, the child does not have to test sick for it. So if a child tests sick for it, you have to get a risk assessment. And the reason you want to go through the programs, if child's sick, you're going to want to go through the program. You don't have to. You're going to have to get a risk assessment and then get it abated. However, if you do it that way, you're going to pay the full amount. And there's only a few certified lead abatement contractors. They're probably not, most of them, like, this is what got us into it. We tried going outside of it and calling them. They're not going to call you back because they'd rather go do it for the government because they can their margins are a lot higher. And it's guaranteed payment. So that's why these programs are really good. But you can do it proactively. Yeah. And we've done roofs, it's new windows, doors, we've done roofs, we've done brand new stairs, we've redone backyards, porches, decks, anything. You sprinkle a little bit of lead up there. Well, no, I think what they get is you put a little bit of lead paint right around where the downspout is, and the argument is it came off the roof and came down, and so we probably should do a new roof here. The government has to spend money, and they'll do it. But we've done a bunch of roofs. York's they do it. They're getting more money in July. So July they have more money coming. Harrisburg does it. They're very similar. I think they have about $7.5 million. So all these different places are going to do it. Right now, City of Lancaster requires the lead safe cert. I'm a pretty firm believer that once every other municipality kind of sees what's happening here, they're going to start pushing it too. The council can sit there and beat their chest saying they're doing a lot to help the kids in the community, and then they're also going to say, well, here's an access to all this money that we can get and distribute and bring up the housing stock. So you can fight it, or you can use it to help improve your properties. If it's lead abatement. So technically, anybody working in a property before 1978 has to have the RRP license. But once it becomes abatement, that's when it has to be a certified lead abatement contractor. So it's kind of a fine line, but as soon as it becomes you have to remove the lead, that's when the numbers tick up quite a bit. Unless your company is an abatement company, no. You could have an abatement company go sign off on you doing it, but it's going to have to go through an abatement company if it's actual abatement work. Yeah, that's kind of what I had. I don't know where we're at, but that's my contact information. If I can be of any help, please let me know. My cell phone, call or text. I will always get back to you, but sometimes calls will take a little bit, so text is pretty quick, or email. I'm pretty quick with email as well. Our office address, office website. Yeah. Any questions I can help with?
You might have mentioned on the lead abatement work, but is there any cap on project costs? So like let's say we buy a 4-unit and it looks like peeling paint all over, and you know it's going to run like 70, 80 grand to
No. So it changes once you go over $25,000, it becomes scale rate. But as far as the investor is concerned, it doesn't matter. We've done jobs that are over 80 grand. So what they'll do is they'll break it down per unit. They don't like to go over a certain amount per unit. So like if one unit is a lot more or one's a lot less, they'll put the exterior piece of that with that unit that doesn't have a ton of work. So it doesn't look like they're spending so much on one thing, and they can call it a bunch of different jobs. Because it won't come through as 123 Main Street. It'll come through as 123 Main Street Apartment 1, Apartment 2, 3, and 4. So it's 4 different jobs rather than one job. So they make it so it looks a lot better for them.
And then how much owner input can you add there? Like, I want a certain style for your door, or is it
You do have some input, and you can. It's when you can pick the contractor based off of that. So it's kind of having the conversation with the city and who the contractors are of what you want. It's supposed to be returned in like. So like if it's 1/1, they usually do 1/1, but you can have that conversation. Yeah. We would. I'm not positive on how some of the other ones are, but you're definitely able to have the conversation. We've done paint color matches. We've done things how we will do whatever the owner wants, and I think most of the other ones will too. But their scope ends after like whatever the work is. So if there's like a huge hole in the wall here that's not lead and has nothing to do with the window, they're not responsible to patch and paint that. They're only doing the actual abatement work. So you can spend a bunch on abatement work and still have a property that's not ready to rent. It could still need quite a bit of work.
Have you heard anybody having success with having 6-month leases instead of 12 or any other type of term?
Yeah. You can have success with it. I know a lot of people went with the month-to-month back during COVID, and some people have stuck with that ever since. We have always historically gone with a year lease up front and then an automatic month-to-month. We've now started focusing and shifting more to an extra year, like trying to renew for a year. We will try to renew people in the spring so we don't have a vacancy in the winter. We have done 6 months if they're renting in the winter and they're like, hey, I just need something. But I would not do 6 months if it's going to get you vacant in the winter or the fall. We're also seeing like tenants kind of like that security of, oh, I have a year lease. But yeah, there's flexibility there. You can kind of do what you want.
any thoughts on where the lower end rents, rooming house built? Where do you see it that investors can kind of do well in this market since we can't really compete with?
Yeah, there's a couple areas there. The rooming houses you have a lot of flexibility with. We rent those anywhere from $650 to $750, $800 a month, and they're nothing more than a room and a shared bathroom. There's no kitchen. And there's some opportunity there, and there's a lot more flexibility there too because we don't fall under the same LT walls. Where I'm seeing I think what's been renting the quickest for us a lot of times is townhouses and single family homes. Because what the new build construction is a lot of studios, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, and what they're not putting up is more family homes. So the townhouses that are a 3-bed, 2.5 bath, or a 4-bed, 2.5 bath, you're starting to see more people go that way, and it actually becomes more affordable for 3 roommates to go rent a townhouse and split the rent at $2,400 than it would be to go try to rent a studio. So your studio, you might be able to push $1,000, $1,050, or as 1 bedroom, maybe you get $1,200. If they go get 3 roommates at a $2,400 a month, they're paying $800. So right now, I think the way to avoid that competition is to be in a field that they aren't in, and they don't have 3 bedrooms. So 3 bedrooms seems to be like a sweet spot. 4 bedrooms works really well for families. So we have some larger single family homes that have rented really well at 4 bedroom. 5 bedroom gets a little tricky. It could be maybe a family that has a little bit, it may not fit the dynamics you really want, but that 3 to 4 bedroom is a good sweet spot.
Have you considered moving into Dauphin County? I'd probably like to be aware of you moving into Dauphin.
I haven't thought about Dauphin County. I know one guy there that I said I wouldn't mess with him, but Joe's probably going to break my arm sooner or later. Enough pressure. Yeah, so my opinion on Section 8's changed a lot in recent years, and I like it a lot more now than I used to. Because Section 8 is going to go off census tract, and with all these high-end luxury apartments and all these high rents that are coming out there, we can show them those comps. So you can start pushing some stuff in areas that maybe you normally couldn't and get guaranteed rent at a higher rate than you used to. A few years ago, it was on the flip side, where the Section 8 was just not keeping up with market, but now Section 8 becomes a lot more attractive because you can maybe push rents a little bit more than you should. We have one example where when we rented it on the open market, we got $995. It went vacant. We went into Section 8 and got $1125. So it was quite a big difference. And we've worked with her for a while. She's not going to go anywhere. So, and we've been getting really healthy bumps every year because we just show them all the new comps, and they just bump it. Yeah, so we have 15 employees right now. I think we're probably a little bit overstaffed, but that's intentional. We're always trying to improve. I'm always trying to find ways that we can better serve our owners, our tenants, and even our staff so they're not overwhelmed. But we have 2 VAs. If you need a VA, you should talk to Ephraim. He's got the best ones out there. They're excellent. Anytime I need something done, I reach out to Ben, and it's done. We have 3, we call them resident services coordinators, but they're essentially leasing agents, property managers. We have an accounts receivable, accounts payable. Our accounts receivable is our delinquency coordinator, and this is, I think, kind of our ace in the hole is we file in less than 1%. And then even less than that, we actually go to court. So we have about 1,000 units, and I think we had 5 or 6 go to court this month. All month long, she's reaching out to tenants. What do you need? Can we make this work? Office manager, maintenance coordinator, office admin, accountant, and then we have 4 maintenance guys. So we try to keep some of the maintenance in-house to help with costs for owners and just timeliness. We can have them go where we need. But we also have great vendors that we work with, so we does it make more sense to keep it in-house, sub it out? We try to find whatever makes the most sense for the project. We charge 9% of collected rent. Unless it's in Columbia, then it's 10%. And you've been there, I guess. It's just anybody who's been to Columbia will know why. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Great stuff. Thank you, Austin. That was very informative and entertaining. Thank you. Good job. Again, thank you all for coming out. One thing I want to add on, or just mention about what Austin was talking about, I'll often tell clients that property management will take care of 95% of your real estate problems. You have a good property manager in place, whether that's yourself or a professional like Austin. That's what makes real estate a lot of fun. Having bad tenants can make real estate investing miserable. So the screening piece is extremely important. Cool. Thanks again for coming out. Feel free to take some time and make a new friend. And would love to see you all back here the first Wednesday of May.